So Silver 47 is the amalgamation of an Alaska VMS slash Silver Explorer and Summa Silver. And Galen McNamara is the CEO of the combined entity now. So I'm really interested to hear the rationale, behind the amalgamation of these two companies and sort of the vision for the combined entity. So Galen, how are you today?
Hi, Robert. I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for having me on again, and good to see you. I was just thinking this morning, like we've been talking since like going back to 2020. Now I've been on and off your the program here. So yeah, great to be back.
Yeah. I actually think this is your first appearance on the YouTube channel Goldfinger Capital. So it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you. I've been to Tonopah a number of times. I definitely have followed Summa closely since 2020, actually, the first time I went out there. So let's dig into it. So what is the rationale, behind putting these two entities into one larger company?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. But one thing just to touch on that, that comment just sparked to my memory. You actually went to our Tonopah site when we were drilling before I did, because that was during COVID and I couldn't leave Canada. You know,
Yeah,
that was that was funny to hear you get back.
yeah,
That's
huh.
right. That's right.
I
That's right.
still got the pictures of that tour. Yeah, that was a really weird time. Yeah, I recall that time.
Yeah. But no, I think, more importantly, to the current conversation and the current merger that we're just in the final stages of closing now with Silver 47. Of course, a big question is like, why do this, Galen? What's the upside for us as shareholders? And, really my approach was that, look, we've got two ways to grow. One is through the drill bit, and we've had a lot of success doing that at Summa. But of course that takes time and money, right? Which is just like every other explorer. But from the other side of that coin, of course, the second way to grow is through M&A and finding like-minded companies and like-minded management teams that see that 1+1 could equal 3 or 5 or something like that, and grow that way, because then you start. You'll have a bigger market cap. You'll be exposed to a different type of investor. This checked a lot of boxes for us in that, it's America, and made in America is really an important emerging theme that has been coming at us for some time. But of course, now with the current administration, that's totally amplified. So that's just some of the, my thought process.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, at first, some people might be like, that's kind of a head scratcher, because Alaska is not exactly close to Tonopah or, the Southwest, of the U.S. But the country definitely matters. They're both, like, all the projects are in the U.S. And obviously there's a big focus now on silver, gold, lead, zinc, copper in the U.S. And so you've got that full, accumulation of metals. Okay, so my next question is, what's the flagship project and what's the company's focus now?
Yeah. Well, right now for the immediate term, we're really focused on the Alaska project. That has a very substantial VMS deposit on it in two zones, totaling about 15 million tons, which for VMS deposits is pretty large. But we also think that we can step out around it and have a pretty good shot at growing this and taking 15 million tons, up pretty significantly with a good, perhaps even a season of drilling. It's wide open in all directions. There's a window for us to drill now because it's the summertime. And from a silver equivalent basis, there's, a lot of ounces there. Quite a lot of ounces there. And I've got too many numbers in my head right now, but I'm going to tell you the exact one because I've had just a little bit of a crazy morning. But there's 168.6 million silver equivalent ounces there at a silver equivalent grade of about 336 grams per ton. So, right there, with that tonnage and significant step outs, we think there's potential to build significantly more ounces there where we have a window for the summer. But of course, like the geologic potential in Tonopah at the Hughes property and at Mogollon in New Mexico, that hasn't gone anywhere. And we have windows where we can drill that later in the year through the winter into next year, where if we think that, that it'll be a good decision for share price appreciation, we can bounce down there and just continue to systematically add ounces, like we've done in the past. But right now, certainly the focus is Alaska.
Okay, so the Red Mountain project, it's a VMS system, and it's in Alaska. It has a resource on it currently of 15.6 million tons at an average grade of 336 grams silver equivalent. So just knowing VMS deposits, Galen, sort of the sweet spot number that I've seen other companies try to get to, 20 million tons, or certainly 30 million is way better. So how big can this get, you think?
Yeah, I think that, well, I mean, for some context, I cut my teeth in exploration and VMS deposits, working in Flin Flon and Snow Lake. And, I think that where it's at right now is very strong. I think we can, you step out, it grows, and it's kind of out of our hands as exploration is how big it's going to get and how big it can get. But certainly we think it can get quite a bit bigger. But also from an exploration perspective, we've got the whole belt. And it's like very, very sparsely explored. We know we have high grade showings on surface that have all of the VMS hallmarks that world leading experts have studied for past operators and have said the same thing, that just like straight haven't been drilled. So that's more of a question for us to answer, not this year, but in subsequent years. But one of the big things for me coming into this was also like, wow, like where else can you have or sit on an entire VMX belt or big district? And there's all these undrilled showings that like at surface might be like, up to 10% zinc or, 500 grams per ton silver or a couple percent copper, or like another showing's 2 or 3 grams per ton gold, and it's a rare and unique opportunity, and compounded by the fact that it's in the United States in a state like Alaska that's really focusing on critical mineral development domestically.
So I remember I met with your chairman, Gary, at a conference a few months ago, and Gary kind of ran me through some of these targets on the property out west, like the Sheep Creek and the Horseshoe. And I was like, yeah, these are really good drill targets. So is there any plans to do some wildcatting here this year?
I don't think this year. I think we think the immediate upside this year is stepping out around where we know there's mineralization. We also want to spend some time to get these targets a little more ready and have some people go out, specifically one person go out and really look at all of these targets and build a ranking system and build our exploration knowledge so we can make sure that we test our best ones first. That's just good exploration practice. It's really easy to go out there and be like, all right, let's just start drilling and go for some targets. And it's kind of like shooting in the dark a little bit.
I see. Okay. So you stick to the core area, try to build some more tonnage there at Red Mountain. And how big of a program are you guys doing this year?
You know what? We've got between 4,000 and 5,000 meters approved so far. That was just pre-Silver47 Summa Silver merging. Once this merger completes, when we expect it to complete is early August, very early August, we'll have then raised an additional $6.9 million. And I think it's pretty fair to say we expect to expand it, maybe even add 50% to that or more, depending on how efficient drilling goes. For this summer, and then just drill until the snow flies and we're frozen out of the site.
Okay. And then going back to Tonopah, so the Hughes project has a resource on it. I think it's over 40 million ounces of silver equivalent, if I recall correctly. The grades are a little bit higher there than at Red Mountain. You got some really nice silver grades at Hughes. So give me an update on that. I don't think I followed it too closely in 2024. So just give me an update on the latest from Hughes and sort of what might be next there.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, that project is one that is near and dear to our hearts. I think maybe both of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. We're looking at a solid 44 million silver equivalent ounces there between inferred, indicated, and tailings. At grades of between, in the underground portion, 367 grams per ton silver equivalent, 421 grams per ton silver equivalent. Not all of it, but let's say like 90% of that resource, give or take, is in the historic part of the district, where we've stepped out around old mines, trying to drill things that the old timers 100 years ago didn't get to, just based on our really extensive geological knowledge and 3D models that we have, that we've been able to drill that out. But the real upside for the district is to the east extension of our project. We've got a 4-kilometer eastern extension of the Tonopah Mining District on claims that we just staked a few years ago, that I actually staked personally when we were starting the project, which was fun. So what we did just this past winter is we drilled a series of holes out to the east in a fence and stepping out around where we already know there's mineralization. And we had a hole that was 3 meters of 1,400 grams per ton silver equivalent. So step out around that aggressively, which is what we did. I wouldn't say that we've hit the main structure out there where it's mineralized, but we certainly hit some interesting above cutoff grade numbers over narrowish widths, a meter or two here or there. Where from a market perspective, we might not think, they've hit the mother lode, but from a geological perspective, we certainly think that, it's really, really interesting. So for that project, there's 2 key questions on that eastern district. Number one, where's the main vein? Where is it mineralized? That's it. And number 2, like, how much is left for us to find out there when we get onto that main vein? Because the Tonopah Mining District, if you add up like what we've drilled out, what our colleagues and friends of Blackrock Silver have drilled out, the 100 million ounces there, plus what they mined in the past, it's something like between 400 and 500 million silver equivalent ounces over 4 kilometers, Robert. We have a 4-kilometer extension onto that where we're hitting veins, throughout it. Where's the main vein?
Yeah, I mean, so I remember being there in August 2020 with your VPX or your geo that was on site there, your lead geo. And we looked out over that valley to the east and we both were like, yeah, that's where the blue sky is. Like, that's where we got to go eventually. You got to drill there. So you guys did a lot of really good work, really good modeling of this old district, and you found Ruby. And you got some really nice hits at Ruby. That's a big step out. That's over 1,000 meters east of the known area.
Well,
yeah.
I was just going to say, well, where you were standing there, the Belmont Mine looking east, the hole that we've drilled furthest to the east and got a hit on is 4 kilometers, along that site east of there. So you can stand on that pad, and that hole hit 1.5 meters of several hundred grams per ton silver equivalent in an RC hole, straight wildcat. And you can stand on that pad and then look back to the Belmont Mine and you go, whoa, But the search space is not just long; it's also wide. Yeah. So where's the main?
Yeah, so it's impressive because anybody who knows these somewhat narrow, high grade gold silver vein systems, I mean, you're not shooting at a football field. You're shooting at 2 meters, sometimes 3 meters. I mean, if you're lucky, it's 5 or 6 meters wide, but it can be, a kilo silver with 5 to 10 grams gold. So it can be really high grade, So you hit at Ruby. You made a discovery. You made multiple new discoveries there of a high grade gold silver vein way out to the east. So where do you sort of leave that target? Like, where does it stand now? And what about these other early stage targets that you've worked up, like Diamond and Sapphire?
Yeah. Well, Sapphire is the one that's furthest to the east. So in a perfect world, they all connect. All of those things along from west to east, they all connect. I think Diamond's one of them. Sapphire is one of them. Ruby's obviously one of them. What we need to do is one of the things we just drilled was like a fence of holes across, through there from toe to heel. If you can picture that, to look for that main structure. I think we just continue to march along and do that systematically along the 4 kilometers. And perhaps we drill the upper parts of the holes with RC, which is much cheaper, and then core through our target areas. We really do need core through the vein zones. It's much more expensive. I don't think there's any way around. Robert, what we really need to do to maximize our chances of discovery out east of the Tonopah District is continue to drill fences of holes. And when I say a fence of holes, I mean from the top of the hole toe to heel to the bottom of the hole and cover the width of the target, which is probably 1 kilometer wide, give or take. and really try to look for where that main structure is, systematically out along that 4 kilometer strike length, which we know is the target zone, the search space somewhere in there. Let's try to find it.
Okay. And then New Mexico, like obviously that was a major focus for Summa for a number of years. What's going on there?
Well, yeah, another one. We put another course there actually on the same day as we put the one out for Hughes in 30 million of silver equivalent at 367 grams per ton silver equivalent split between gold and silver. Again, another vein field that's really underexplored to unexplored. And I equate that one as really akin to some of the famous Mexican districts that the Spanish have been mining going back 500 years or so, and it's just really not explored. I was actually there a couple weeks ago now, touring Gary from Silver47 and showing him, and we walked around and on some new veins that I hadn't seen before. One of them being the northern extension of the Oboy. So Mogollon is also, very interesting project for us. And yes, we've obviously focused on it pretty significantly over the last several years. And the new piece of news for Mogollon, at least since we last talked, was that we put out a resource there as well, actually on the same day as the Hughes property. And this one totals 32 million ounces of silver equivalent at 367 grams per ton silver equivalent, split between gold and silver. But really, I think we're just starting to scratch the surface there. For perspective, that resource, I'll say, very incompletely covers 2 kilometers of the Queen vein, which is the first vein that we've been drilling out. In total, there's something like 77 kilometers of total vein and prospective structure on the property, some of which was mined 100 years ago, but most of which is totally unexplored. And for context, I was just up there a couple weeks ago with Gary from Silver47, just doing a site tour. And I stood on that same Queen vein, probably 4 kilometers north of our resource. And because there wasn't any snow on the ground, there was when I was there last time, I could see it and I could walk along it. And I just started walking along it, just for as long as I could. And just, it's not mineralized there, but like all of the hallmarks for the upper parts of a system are there. All of the beautiful epithermal textures are there. This Mogollon really represents a rare and unique American precious metal opportunity. And it may be the best remaining vein field left in the United States, in my professional opinion.
Yeah, Mogollon has had some really good drill intercepts. I've always been impressed with that project. I think the market just a little skeptical that it might not be big enough. And so I guess you have an opportunity to sort of prove the naysayers wrong there. What do you think your plans will be there? I mean, obviously you said you're focused on the Alaska project at Red Mountain in 2025. What do you think the work programs might be in 2026 at the other assets?
I think once we get this transaction closed, we'll be able to focus on that a little more fully. But I could see us going to one or the other before the end of the year. We just need to decide on where we think we'll get the most, quote unquote, to use a cliche, bang for our buck. But we certainly don't want this company to be a drill Alaska in the summertime only and forget the other projects. No, we think we can add a lot of value here through the drill bit on the projects in the lower 48. But more to come on that pretty soon.
Okay, as far as bang for the buck goes, that's a good question. That's a good topic you brought up, because I know a lot of companies that are drilling in the U.S. right now. One thing that consistently comes up is the cost of core drilling. So it's a little bit different, with the RC. It's cheaper, it's faster, but the core drilling, what is going on with core drilling in the U.S.? And can you teach us anything about the costs, or maybe the word contractors that you use?
Contractor selection is so key, and it really is it comes down to relationships. And our current VP exploration, Chris York in Nevada, just has these great relationships. So you can really get the really good diamond drillers. It really is very much a specialty profession. almost to the extreme. But yeah, costs per meter for diamond drilling in the United States are high. Were high when we started this in 2020 and have gone up, especially but it's all based on relative to what we get in Canada. And I think we're kind of spoiled here in Canada, honestly, in terms of diamond drilling costs. In the United States, labor is just more expensive. It's a labor market based on supply and demand. So labor is more expensive, and good drillers are rare, good contractors are rare, so it's more expensive. But the way I really like to equate that is that, okay, well, how many ounces am I adding per meter drilled instead of necessarily like what's my cost per meter? Like the cost per meter is also very, very key, but I can live with high costs per meter if I'm drilling out silver equivalent ounces at like 25 cents US an ounce. I think that's still a really good value proposition. And that's what we've done so far, give or take, at Mogollon and Hughes.
Okay, very good. So as far as the combined entity, it looks like it's going to have a market cap above 100 million. It might even be 150 million, when it's all said and done. I mean, in this silver market, it's possible for sure. Are you getting any guidance on whether Silver 47 will be added to exchange traded funds like the silver focused ones, or any others where you might be large enough to actually attract those passive flows?
I wouldn't say we're getting guidance. I think that's something we're looking at pretty closely. And it's certainly an aspiration for us to be in there, for a couple of them. I want to say we meet all of the requirements now. So now it's just a matter of perhaps us being a little more proactive and letting them know that we do meet those requirements. But what's happened in the past, and Summa Silver has been in and out of SILJ before, you don't really hear anything back. You can be a bit of a, you can be a bit of a pain in their behind, but they kind of do what they want to do, and it's really out of your control.
I see. All right. Final couple questions, Galen. So I know Gary reasonably well. Can you introduce the viewers to any of the other team members on the Silver 47 team?
Yeah, so we're also going to be working with their VP Exploration, who's continuing in that role. His name's Alex Wallace. And then two other key geologists. And there's somebody else I'd like to mention too from the Silver 47 team, and Ginny Gay. She's helping us manage things at site, but also is very, very strong in VMS regional exploration. So she's kind of waiting to be set loose to build some targets, which I'm excited about because, of course, I'm an exploration geologist at heart still. And then from this, the Summa Silver team, we've got our VP Exploration will be continuing as the VP Operations, Chris York, and then a geologist, Dan Verrill. Both those guys are from Elko and very strong. And then here with me in the office is Jordi Belfiore, and I'm sure many shareholders have probably already talked to him. He likes to talk to lots of people, and please reach out to us anytime. He'll be happy to talk to anyone. And then a geologist by the name of Christopher Leslie works with us pretty closely here in Vancouver as a consultant, but he's one of the gentlemen that discovered a large deposit in BC called Blackwater. That's now something like 7 or 8 million ounces in the proven and probable categories. So, I'd like to think we have a very strong team, and we're all looking forward to sinking our teeth into this new entity.
Okay, so when does the deal close? And what else can you tell us about the news flow that you anticipate to have over the coming months?
Yeah, so we're targeting closing for very early August. And right now we're drilling in Red Mountain, so I'd expect some news surrounding that as we start to see assays coming into the fall, and seeing what we're getting there on our step outs and infill holes and some exploration targets. But we've also got a few things going on in the background, working on other projects. There's a project that nobody knows about called Kennedy that we just finished a sampling program on and saw some really interesting veins there. Perhaps a discussion for another day, but that's, I think, an undrilled Nevada vein field. So some interesting stuff to come from that. But really, like the main pieces of news going forward will be drill results based as we get results back from Alaska.
Great. Thank you, Galen. I really appreciate the introduction to Silver 47.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on again, Robert.
Cheers.